Hello and welcome to our next session, which is on electricity and gas market dynamics. We have an interesting panel. We're going to be looking at the gas market and electricity market, focusing on energy prices, the demand evolution for power and gas, and the key drivers for the supply side in the power market. We have a very knowledgeable panel, and I'm going to start with Effie Milionis. She's the Market Analysis and Back Office Department Manager for Elpedison from Greece. Effie, the floor is yours.
Hello to everyone, and thanks to ENF for this invitation. Sorry. I know this is a bit of a difficult time just after lunch, so I'll try to keep it brief. We have all overused, I would say, the word unprecedented to describe what happened in 2022, and this was for a valid reason. There were fears of interruption of gas pipeline flows and the eventual decline, and this led to prices to record highs. Let me remind you that when we finished last summer, there were legitimate concerns regarding gas shortages and even power outages in the coming winter. The winter came and it passed relatively smoothly, so the prices declined, and this has surprised the analysts. One of the key drivers was the key drivers for the price reduction, and what keeps them down is the gas demand reduction. Half of the demand reduction achieved in 2022 came from the building sector, and about 65% can be attributed to the weather. Industry reduced gas demand, and they consumed about 25 BCM of gas less than the previous year. The energy-intensive industries were the first to respond, and they reduced the production, and many plants even shut down. Let's look a bit at this graph. You have seen it a lot. It's the filling storage levels in the European Union. Europe managed to finish the winter due to the low demand with ample storage. We were very lucky, and this means that we have to inject almost half the gas we did back in 2022. And this seems like a bit like an easy task. The demand remains low, and LNG keeps coming in. However, I would like to note that Europe has been able to attract LNG even with the low prices. The recovery of Asian demand has not materialized yet, as predicted. However, there are signs that this might change. The European prices have been low for quite a while now, and arbitrage opportunities emerge. There are rumors in the market that some cargoes are discussing to redirect from Europe to the East. We must keep in our mind that the next winter might be much more difficult. Let's move on to the power complex and see how the energy mix evolved. I have to say that even without the gas prices, 2022 would have posed some challenges. We had a very significant deficit from nuclear production and hydro production, and despite the increased RES generation and the demand reduction, gas production had to increase despite the high prices. This is not a trend we see now in 2023. As you all know, the energy market is a complex one and with many technical details. The European market is integrated. Whatever happens in one country may affect another one. So all the factors on this slide, I will not go over them one by one, keeps reshuffling the power flows across Europe. And now let's see the electricity demand. Similar to the gas demand, we saw a very big decrease in the electricity demand, and it actually continues to be low even today. What is interesting to see is that the wholesale prices did not have an immediate effect to the demand. As you may see on the graph on the right, we saw that we have the large demand reductions some months after the peak of the prices. Right now, we witness the opposite. The prices are low, but demand has not picked up yet. And what happens in Greece? In Greece, so far, we have had a 9% reduction. We were very lucky. The winter was quite mild. But what if something else also happened? On this graph, I try to analyze the effects of the winter on the low voltage demand. So on the y-axis, I have plotted the daily demand, and on the x-axis, the daily temperature. So I know it's a rough calculation, but just to see what happens. You may also see some trend lines just for easier reference. And if you see the dot for 2020, the line for 2023 is below the one of the line of 2022. And what does this mean? This means that for similar temperatures for the same weather, the low voltage demand was about 10,000 megawatt hours less than last year. And this points to a change in the behavior of the customers. So the crisis has something to do with that. Last, I would like to deep dive a bit on the effect of the renewables production, and especially the solar, to the prices and to the demand curve. What we see here is the famous duck curve. You may see on the right the original from California, and on the right we have the Greek residual demand. So each line represents a year. Year over year, the solar generation increases. That means that there is no need during midday for other generators to produce, and they have to ramp up ramp down during the morning and ramp up very sharply just before the evening peak. The most distinctive day in 2023 was the Good Friday. ADMIE had to act proactively, and they curtailed some imports just to manage the situation. We need to find a way to manage the duck curve. We can increase flexible demand when the supply is ample, and we can use storage to transfer the excess generation from noon to the evening. For certain, we need flexibility to manage the ramps and the uncertainty of forecasts, and we also need capacity to meet the demand when the renewables are not producing. Concluding, I would like to say that the energy market is changing rapidly. This creates challenges, but also opportunities for all of us. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Effie, and for providing an outlook for prices and the markets. Regardless if next winters might be more difficult or not, they have to be prepared and in order to meet capacity and to have enough flexibility. My next panelist is online. Mr. Arben Kolokokui, he's Director for Energy and Market for VIII. He's going to be talking about mostly, he will focus on electricity market design, the VIII view, but also, we'll make a connection to Southeast Europe in general, since this is the focus of this conference. Arben, can you hear us? Are you in Austria or?
I can hear you, and I hope you can hear me. Yes, I'm in Vienna.
Yeah.
And greetings from Vienna as well.
Okay, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and apologies for not being present. I think really a conference like this deserves to have all the participants present at the venue, but unfortunately, sometimes we make commitments and then we have to improvise, but it's good that we have at least the opportunity to be connected and to present and participate in the conference. I will maybe start with the electricity market design. As you know, I think the previous speaker explained a little bit also the casualties and how we came to the crisis, gas scarcity, and then also the low availability of hydro and nuclear. I think it's not maybe really the right time now to discuss. To some extent, this subject has been exhausted. Now it's important to discuss what are the next steps. And we see that there is a lot of discussion going on at the Commission, at the Parliament, all the stakeholders effectively discussing about what will be the next measures. We have seen also in terms of the market design, we have seen the proposal by the Commission, and following that, there has been also revision by the Council. There has been reports from the MEPs. We have seen the Caceres report. We have seen also the reports from other political groups at the European Parliament. I think I'll try to summarize maybe in 4 points. I'll try to summarize the view of VIII on how we see as a representation of the industry, how we see these the provisions that are in the proposal by the Commission, but then also what we have seen in these reports that I mentioned. Maybe just a step back, as IFET, we represent about 130 companies that operate in more than 30 European countries. And of course, this is one very important topic for us as well. And we have been engaged in providing remarks, in providing our view to the Commission directly in the consultation process and so on. My summary will be in these 4 points. So I will be mentioning the issues related to the emergency measures. I will be going through what we have seen in terms of the forward market and hedging. I will mention a little bit the consumer's role, and then finally the flexibility. In terms of the emergency measures, we believe and we see, of course, the review of the electricity market design as a great opportunity to strengthen the European model and regain the regulatory stability. On the same time, we do see emergency measures and believe that emergency measures should be an exemption in order to rebuild the trust in the market. From that point of view, what we have seen at the Commission's proposals, the 3 strict cumulative conditions proposed by the Commission for the declaration of the energy crisis, be it regional or union-wide, are quite good. And as long as they remain as such, we believe that that's probably something that would support this objective of regaining the trust in the energy market. On the same time, we believe that the integration of the inframarginal revenue caps from the regulation 2022-1854, I believe, the emergency regulation, the emergency measures regulations, which sets the revenue caps into the electricity regulation, is probably not the way to go. Again, we cannot make what is an exception situation into a regular state of play. So it's important that this remains as an exception, and the declaration of crisis should remain with the Commission, and then all the measures that should be undertaken as depending on the situation. However, if the integration, as mentioned, the integration of the inframarginal revenue caps is not really the way to go. We also believe that the emergency measures should apply to vulnerable consumers, so effectively being domestic or maybe small businesses as well. But this is really with the aim to limit the negative effects on the demand side response, because if we have the emergency measures applying to all the consumers, businesses, industrial, big businesses, and industrial consumers, then we might have detrimental, or we might have undue impact on the demand response. Also, we believe that the national interventions impacting the energy market since September 2021 should be phased out now that, as we have seen also from the previous speaker, the situation is being normalized. And we should, again, with the purpose of having to rebuild the trust on the market, this is also very important from the market participants' point of view. The other point which is very important for us is the hedging or the provisions that relate to the forward market. And we have seen a focus of the Commission on facilitating the commercial PPAs. This is very important. We support actually the proposal that restricts the application of the two-way CFDs to new investments only, and only to those that are subject to the public financial support. We believe that the barriers that are in place on some countries related to PPAs should be removed, and the reporting should remain under as it is set under the REMIT framework, like any other transaction, so that there is no additional burdensome requirements to market participants when when striking the PPA or when putting in place a PPA. We also support the Commission's proposal to improve the existing forward markets with longer-term transmission rights, so at least three to 5 years before the delivery, potentially complemented with voluntary market making when needed or as needed. However, we do contest the added value of the regulated regional virtual hubs, and we believe that we should go back to the original spirit of maximization of the forward transmission capacity from zone to zone. So we do believe that we should, at this stage, resist to the temptation of putting in place in regulations designs that have not been tested in the manner that they would apply as they are set in the provisions of the regulations. Going on to the next point now, to the consumer's role. We have seen, and it is naturally comes as such, that the consumers are at the heart of this reform, and that is very important. We support the right to access both fixed and flexible price contract, as well as greater standards for consumers' information. This is very important because with giving the consumers the choice to go for fixed or a flexible contract or a dynamic pricing contract, it is important for them that they will make the decision based on information that have been given to them or have been provided to them. Giving them the choice without the information sometimes might do more harm than benefit. So it's important that this optionality that is given to consumers is always complemented with requirements to provide additional information. We also support prudent, as EFED basically support prudent portfolio management and recommended tailoring supplier hedging obligation, if any, of course, to the actual commitments that they have with consumers. Suppliers, a lot of suppliers are prudent in a manner that they will hedge their portfolio as long as there is the possibility to hedge that portfolio in the market. So this should really be seen also in conjunction with other measures that relate to improving forward markets in general in the manner that they operate today, but then also allowing for their evolution to more liquid markets. And maybe the last point in these four categories is the flexibility. I think it's important to mention that flexibility in all its forms and available technologies is necessary to integrate renewables as they continue to grow in today's environment. We recommend allowing cross-border optimization even closer to delivery, so 15 minutes to delivery, and sharing of intraday order books across and within borders. We support standardized, technological, neutral, cost-efficient and transparent assessment of flexibility needs. We recommend that indicative targets and regulated flexibility schemes were implemented only complement the market and are technology neutral. So not that the market is by default built as kind of with this scheme and they operate as such, but rather only when they are needed to complement the market and where the investments in these technologies are actually, or the market is not able to give or to deliver the investments in these technologies. And with respect to the peak shaving products, we believe that TSOs should use these products, or there should be a possibility to use these products as they are defined only after implementation of the EU market network codes and guidelines and all the energy efficiency rules. This is important because in one hand, we have all the requirements with regards to the market design and network codes and guidelines that are still not entirely implemented, and adding additional requirements or additional products that to some extent might compete with what we already have in terms of the market design might create some, again, maybe undue impact to the market and to the market efficiency. So it's important that we ensure that whatever is required is implemented. And then if that does not deliver sufficient benefits or the benefits that has been expected, then you allowing also the TSOs to go ahead with the peak shaving products. It's also important that these products are not activated in parallel with day ahead and intraday market, because this would undermine the fundamentals of the intraday, of the day ahead market, as well as the fundamentals of the balancing market. So this is maybe in summary, these kind of from these four categories, how we see the proposals. Now, maybe just very shortly to make this link with Southeast European market. And when we speak about Southeast European market, it's very important to have in mind the Western Balkan 6 markets. I think it was a very good panel before this one or before lunch, where a lot of very good remarks were put and points were put on the importance of integrating this Western Balkan 6 into the EU market. This is the case. We cannot speak about full efficiency of the Southeast European markets without having in mind integration of the Western Balkan 6 into the market, EU market design. However, it's important to mention that the transposition of the package that has been approved in December 2022 is key to provide that legal certainty also to the EU stakeholders. On the same time, also for the Western Balkan 6, they should really have these obligations set into their national legislation, given that's the script of how energy community operates. So that is very important as a first step. And the second step, which is maybe a segment that relates to the climate policies, we know that we have CBAM regulation, and we know that in order to be integrated in the market, in the EU electricity market, you need to have in place policies and measures that price the CO2. So Western Balkan 6, in order to see themselves fully integrated into the EU market, they need to make sure that they follow and implement the decarbonization plans that have been agreed. And as part of these decarbonization plans that have been approved, again, at the energy community level, you have also the process on how the carbon pricing would work and so on until later on by 2030 all the Western Balkan 6 carbon pricing schemes are integrated in the potentially EU scheme. So this is a very important element when we speak about market, also the level playing field in terms of the climate policies. With this, I will end, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thanks a lot, Arben, for explaining the next measures and the 4 key points: the emergency measures, the hedging, the consumer's role, flexibility, but also talking about what's important, the next steps for the West Balkan 6. And we have in this panel, we're going to be discussing this further. I want to move to my next panelist, Mr. Yannis Kabouris. He's the chairman and CEO of Southeast Electricity Network Coordination. Yannis, the floor is yours. Just a note to my panel, since I have you now here, Arben was in line, so it was a little more flexible with the time, but let's take 5-6 minutes. And so we can have a little discussion afterwards too. Effie, you did a great job, thanks. Yanis, the floor is yours.
Hello. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much, ENF, for having us here. It's an issue more on the electricity security and on the market, but we strongly feel, and it's true, that security is the very needed prerequisite to develop markets. So I will speak shortly about what we call the regional coordination centers and why we do need them. And let me go fast. Actually, this trial to have a coordination on a broader regions in Europe triggered by two major events. One in 2003, the blackout in Italy. The second one, in 2006, in November, the biggest blackout ever in Europe that affected a lot of customers. Actually, the continent was separated into three parts, and actually the western part suffered the most because of something like 18 gigawatts were cut because of an event. This, but also the vast and fast development of renewables led us to, as TSOs, to seek and start a broader cooperation at the regional level. So what is the RCC? The RCC actually has two major roles that are completed through a number of services. These major roles is, first of all, to keep security, which is not an easy task after the vast development of renewables and within the big volume of exchanges that we have and the big changes and volatility that we have in the exchanges throughout Europe. We need to collaborate a lot among us, I mean the TSOs, in order to keep security and the lights on. Just to show you one case in Greece, for example, it was in Easter last year, 2022. You know, on Easter we lost the lamp, everybody's out, nobody works. We have the lowest load in country. That day we came to the situation to curtail the transmission rights of the traders. What I'm saying that because in a way, by the regional coordinating centers, we also want to facilitate markets and trading. Let me show another case, even worse, when we were obliged actually to keep security to curtail wind power. We had to curtail wind. I think Effie also mentioned to that event, because we cannot curtail PVs because we have not actually access due to technical reasons to PVs up to now. So let's see what services we provide. We provide quite a lot of services. For the time being, we make some 6 main services. First one is to create a common model for the whole European territory. Actually, for the next day, every TSO provides the model, the forecast of the state of the network. We merge all these together. So we have a common model that we can study all cases, all disturbances, all together. Of course, what we predict is not what will happen, but it's very much important to speak on the same picture. Second one is the coordinated security analysis. We make security analysis for big areas and big regions that helps all TSOs to have signals to be prepared in case that we have something, we see something that may go wrong in the next day. The other very much important issue is to actually, it facilitates a lot the markets, is to calculate what is the transmission capacity that we can use in a secure manner for trading. This is a very, very important service for the market facilitation. Also, we take care of the adequacy of the system in case we see that we may have problems within the next week. We have to ring the bell to TSOs. And also, we coordinate the maintenance, meaning that when we have, let me go there to show you. When we have lines that actually consist and comprise a corridor, we are trying to put them out for maintenance at the same time. That means that we save a lot of time that we don't have these corridors available for trading. And this is very much important for traders and for the market facilitation. let me go back. The other one is that in case that we have very, very critical situations, we have to collaborate, and we're trying to do that to help TSOs to recover. This refers to what we call very destructive and but rare events, actually. But due to the climate change, if you follow the bibliography, you'll see that we have more and more such extreme cases that lead to very, very bad and very severe disturbances all around the globe. So I will not stay much to that. And let's take a look what is the case now in Europe. In Europe now we have 6 such coordination centers. As you see, the first one was created in 2008, located in Brussels, and takes care actually of the west part of Europe. The next one was TSCnet, located in Munich in Germany, takes care of Central East Europe, actually, the Nordic for the Scandinavian peninsula, the Baltic for the Baltic countries, and the last established was CC here in Thessaloniki, that covers actually Southeast Europe, meaning Bulgaria, the EU members of Southeast Europe, meaning Bulgaria, Romania, Greece, and Italy. Some words on for our company, for CC. CC has, as I told you, takes care of this region, Southeast Europe. And of course, we need to have always our eye in the region in order to prevent any unwanted events. These days we celebrate our 3rd birthday. It was 3 years ago when we established the company, and we started very, very soon to provide all the services. Even if we are the last established RCC in Europe, I think we are in a position to say that we are stepped together now with all the other RCCs, and we are at the same level of development. And of course, we provide all the services that I mentioned before. But let's take a look to the future. To my opinion, RCCs will be very, very shortly the main players for the security in Europe, but also the main facilitators of the market. What is foreseen in the 4th energy package, the clean energy package that was put, I think it was put in force 1.5, 2 years ago, there are a lot of new things to be prepared and a lot of new services to be given by the RCCs. The most important, I would say, is that we have classified the whole European territory into what we call security operation regions, meaning that, and we have actually 5 of them, but in the synchronous zone, where we are concerned, we have actually 3, the Iberian, the core that covers the vast majority of the territory in Europe, and the Southeast, with us. Also, there is another security center located in Belgrade, but it's not under the EU legislation yet. We hope that it will be soon, as promised by next year, when this harmonization of the WB6 countries to the European legislation is going to be happening. So, under this regime, we have a lot of new services. Sorry. I would say that the major ones is that now we have to collaborate security in the region, but also it's the first time that we are allowed to make actions to another control area, to another country, due to problems to our country, for example. If you have some limitations or security issues in country A, you can resolve it through dispatching actions in the country B or the country C, and then you have to share costs and everything. This is a very, very challenging task, still being under investigation, actually. We do have some methodologies, but we don't feel that we are at the end of the road. There's a lot to be done there. Another very important issue is that we're trying to find a way to share reserves. And you understand very, very easily that since we have more renewables, we have more uncertainties, so we need more reserves. So in order also to reduce costs, we are trying to find ways, in a secure manner always, to reduce and share actually reserves in order to reduce costs and also risks in the continent. So this is briefly the 5 services we already do, and a lot of others that are coming during the next, we hope, 3-4 years. We have started working on that very, very intensively, all together, all RCCs together, and we hope that we can tackle the tasks within 2026, 2027. Another issue I want to refer to is that in this specific region, Southeast, we face a lot of problems and a lot of peculiarities, starting actually from the fact that the majority of the countries do not follow the same rules, do not follow the European legislation. As was told by the previous speaker as well, I think there is a plan that within next year, 1 year, 1.5 years, this will be harmonized. I will be very happy to see that because it will solve a lot of everyday problems and a lot of security problems for the region. So that's it for me. Thank you very much for your attention and patience. And if you want to see us, you can follow in the mass media. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Yanis, and for providing an outlook for the RCC's importance for security and also for coordination. We're going to stay in Greece, and my next panelist is Pantelis Vibiskas. He's associate professor in the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering at Aristotle University of Thessaloniki. Pantelis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to thank Mr. Samboulis for his kind invitation to be here again this year. And my speech will be for democracy in energy in Greece and in general in the region. And in general, I will refer to the fact that the large penetration of renewables has provided a new status in the power systems, a new status with many and difficult problems. And these problems have to do with frequency regulation, with congestion management, with voltage problems, and with the obvious problem of having the difficulty to maintain the system load, the net system load during the noon hours, where we have a large injection of renewables in Greece due to the photovoltaics, and the system has to afterwards, when the sun goes down, to follow the system net load and start up many units in order to cover the remaining load. All these problems will increase in the next years because it seems that the photovoltaics in Greece will increase. And if I remember correct, the National Climate and Energy Plan targets, it seems that in 2030 we will have about 13 to 14 gigawatt of photovoltaics. So is the renewable large penetration a correct policy? In my opinion, yes, it is. And we have to make all necessary tasks in order to run the power system securely as much as possible. The renewables are the lowest energy source currently, and by investing in renewables, we can decrease our exposure in importing fuels and electricity, which is a great target for Greece. Now, can the renewables, how can we manage the system with so much renewable penetration? We have to increase our interconnections or increase our storage capacity. Both are needed. The interconnection side, it seems that in the next months we will have a new interconnection with Bulgaria, which will increase our capacity to 2.7 more or less gigawatt in Greece for import and export directions. And it seems that there is an increasing need for storage capacity. So the question comes, do we need large storage capacity or large storage energy? And the question, in order to answer this question, we need to make several simulations with the system load, the renewable penetration. My simulations, since I'm in a very happy situation to make several simulations during the year, my simulations show that our problem is not so much of energy storage capacity, but of storage power. Because when we will have 13 to 14 gigawatt of photovoltaics in 2030, and the system load will be at the level of 6-7 gigawatt at noon hours, there will be an emerging need to have capacity, power, megawatt, in order to withdraw this energy, to store it in pumping stations or in battery stations, in order to provide it afterwards at late night hours. So in the question, if we need more capacity or more storage energy, the answer is we need more storage capacity. The second question that comes is, currently, do we need CapEx grants and tariffs in order to incentivize battery investments? Currently, we may need, but I think that the most good way to go forward would be to liberalize our market and start acting in the wholesale electricity market without CapEx grants and tariffs. Currently, a large portion of the energy portfolio in Greece is based in tariffs or whatever grants are given by the state. But the way forward cannot be always grants. We have to be more liberalized and start acting in the wholesale electricity market as the Western European countries do. And the third question is, where should we put our batteries in order to absorb power at noon hours and provide it back to the system at late night hours? The answer again is both in the system and in the network. The transmission system and the network are able to incorporate batteries, battery energy storage systems, and both they are very, very helpful for the system and the network in both situations. So, batteries can be installed near the renewables, of course, in private substations, but it's also very helpful for the system and the transmission and the distribution network to have them close to the existing substations, 150, 20 kilovolt substations in Greece. Based on all these elements, I think the way forward is to have a liberalized framework, no CapEx grants, no tariffs, leave the healthy investment opportunities and options to the investors to invest wherever they want, in whatever technology they want, without any obstacles, either political or regulatory, in order to have less risk curtailments. This is very crucial, because currently in 2023, in some months we will face severe curtailments in Greece. We don't see it in April, because we were lucky. There was not sunshine and there was not much wind, but in October we will see severe curtailments. So in order to have curtailments in a smaller scale, in order to be able to face the problems in the power system in a more concrete way, in order to be able to maximize the penetration of renewables in the power system, in the energy portfolio, and in order to avoid zero or even negative prices in the wholesale market, we need to expand and increase the BESS, the battery energy storage system, penetration in the power system very quickly. Thank you for your patience.
Addressing the question of how to manage a system with so many renewables and the issue of interconnectivity, but also storage capacity. Now we're going to be discussing the challenges, the potential role of demand, the challenges after the energy crisis, the potential role of demand response in the Albanian power market. And my next panelist is Dr. Entela Fikos-Rijaz. She's the energy consultant of SEA Consulting Albania. She's also going to be talking briefly about the characteristics of Albanian power sector, the potential role of demand, and the floor is yours.
Okay, I'll try to be quick and avoid, there are too many slides, but I'm not going through all of them. First of all, a short summary of the energy crisis impact, latest energy crisis. Of course, like in other countries in the region and in Europe, it was an immediate impact because Albania imports electricity every year. And therefore, there were huge expenses from the government of Albania to cover for the high prices. Who suffered the most from this crisis is consumers in the liberalized market, large and small medium enterprises, consumers supplied by the last resort supplier because they paid 3 to 4 times more than the pre-crisis level. This universal supplier and the company that was charged with a public service obligation to buy this electricity from imports, which is cash during the emergency situation. And of course, Albanian government, which has to subsidize additional money to buy the electricity from imports. And these are the graphs that back up what I said, but I'm not going through all of them. What are the key characteristics of Albanian power sector? First of all, Albania is a net importer country since 1998. There are only 3 years, 2010, 2018, and 2021, where Albania has been a net exporter, but for the whole period, it's a net importer country. Every year, on average, domestic generation just cover 3 to 4 months. I mean, meet the consumption and a little above consumption, but the rest of the period during hot and dry season, it usually, it's the imports who is needed in Albania because generation is lower than the domestic consumption. This is a very distinct characteristic of Albania, is highly dependent from weather conditions. If we see the generation structure in Albania, it's mainly hydro, 95%, and 99% of the electricity is produced from hydro resources. So we are very dependent on the weather conditions. The third characteristic is about consumption, has been growing steadily and during the last 15 years by 2.6%, and it is anticipated by the transmission system operator. It has done some forecast that will still be grow until 2030, at least 2.4%. But at the same time, especially since 2007, when the private investors in the small hydropower plants started, Albania has increased the capacity installed, mainly hydropower, and there are a lot in process, but mainly photovoltaics, and we are expecting wind, hopefully, and in the next years. And the capacity has been growing 3.7% capacity installed since 2007. Total capacity installed in 2007 was 1.5 gigawatt, and last year was 2.6 gigawatt. So it's a huge increase, but again, we still have the problem with we have to import electricity. Growth, of course, has come mainly from the private investors. It also anticipated, because there are a lot of projects in process, PV, photovoltaics, and hopefully wind as well, and it is expected the capacity will grow until 2030, at least 10% on annual average. So although these are the graphs, but I'm not going through them, although Albania has made a lot of effort to increase capacity installed, it still have the problem with security of supply, because all is hydro so far, but even the ones that are in process are renewables, so which are very probable. So should think more about this portfolio of technologies of generating resources. Affordability has been an issue, especially for households, and during the latest crisis, affordability was an issue for all consumers. What are the measures considered so far? It's diversification, as I mentioned before, which is RES, a lot of efforts to include photovoltaics and wind farms in this portfolio, but gas to power, and to my opinion, gas should be an important element in the portfolio of domestic generation in Albania, because it can serve as a baseload generation. Strengthening interconnection capacities and transmission capacities have been during the whole period. Market liberalization, like in the whole period, we are a contracting party with energy communities, so we have to proceed on this market integration, and the energy efficiency as well. These are measures considered so far, but all these measures, mainly most of them, are on the supply side. So when we talk about markets, markets are efficient when both parties are involved, I mean supply and demand. But if the retail customers are not or are exposed to fixed prices for a relatively long period, they have no incentive to vary their consumption in response to actual market conditions, and they cannot provide a natural price-led response, reflecting therefore the real-time valuation of energy supply. So these give rise to a market failure, which is usually referred to as wholesale-retail disconnect. There are two types of demand response program, price-based programs, which are actually non-dispatchable demand response, and system-based programs, which are dispatchable demand response. I'm not going through them because everybody can have access. What is the current situation with the demand response in Albania? Consumers in liberalized market, mainly the ones that are connected to the high voltage, they are exposed at some extent to market price signals. Consumers supplied by the last resort supplier, they are sort of exposed because they do pay monthly price, which is a price decided by the regulator, and change every month, but during the whole month is the same price. When it comes to the low voltage, consumers, all consumers are with a regulated price, and the biggest consumer in the lowest voltage, of course, are households. So I'm going to focus on households. They consume around 50% of the total energy, electricity in Albania. They pay a yearly fixed price that has been the same since 2015. They are also the main contributors to the daily peak load. Peak load happens during 6 to 8 p.m. in the afternoon, when people usually go back to their homes. And therefore is potential, I think, is potential for improving the range between minimum and maximum consumption through demand response programs. What are potential benefits of making the demand response, the demand to respond to market signals? First is help optimize the use of generation, transmission and distribution infrastructure, reduce needs for costly new investments, help the integration of RES, which all panelists talked about the difficulties of integrating too much renewables that are in process. And of course, individual consumers will benefit from the reduced energy costs. From our preliminary discussion analysis, me and my colleagues, because we have work going on this issue, but our preliminary opinion is that there are two types of demand response programs that can be used in Albania for households, again, because are the biggest group and they are not related at all with the price market signals. And the first one is the time of use pricing, day-night, because if you see the load profile, 24 hours, an average day, there is a big difference between the base load and the peak load during a day. And day-night tariffs or peak load tariffs can be used. And we have example with time of use pricing in, we heard today, in North Macedonia. They are in Kosovo, in Greece, as I have checked the website of the Greek regulator. So Albania has no price which is related to the time of use, and for households, of course. And if we see the directive 2019-944 directive, electricity directive, they mention in chapter 3 the aggregators, demand response through aggregators. And I think it could be possible, or a potential demand response program can be used in Albania, this one, which is direct load control, where a third party, usually the aggregator, directly takes over the consumption of a specific appliance on the end user premises, usually heating appliances. And in Albania, the majority of households use electricity for heating. We don't have gas. Maybe everyone knows we don't have a gas sector yet. And the couple aggregator consumer can provide demand response either on a continuous basis on the wholesale energy market or dispatch reliable demand side resources on balancing, auxiliary services, and capacity markets. And we have the power exchange now. So the power exchange can facilitate the use of this type of demand response program. Are there challenges to implement such programs? Of course, there are challenges. I'm just going to mention them, not explain, because everybody might be aware of them. First of all, consumer awareness and acceptance of the demand response programs. The second is investment in advanced metering infrastructure and control technologies. Third one is regulatory framework, which has to be adapted to accept demand response programs, data privacy and security, and the last but not least, it's financial incentives. The design of financial incentives is critical because financial benefits should outweigh the cost of inconvenience associated with participation of the demand in the market. However, addressing all these challenges require collaboration, very good collaboration between policymakers, regulators, utilities, technology providers, and consumers. That's it. I had a lot of graphs. This is the load profile in Albania, but that's it from me. I will really like any suggestion from you.
Thanks so much, Antela, for providing the characteristics of the Albanian power sector. We're going to be discussing the demand participation a little bit, hopefully, in the panel, also from the other perspectives from the other countries. My next panelist is Professor Alexandra Kroleva-Mateska. She's a professor at UKIM, VIII, and she's going to be discussing the situation in North Macedonia.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. And again, thank you for the opportunity to speak here today. Although this is a market panel session, I would use this opportunity to share some information on an ongoing project, R2D2 project. You can see here the partners participating in this project, and we have some partners from Southeast Europe. We have Greece and Serbia, and we as well. So I would like to tackle the issue of resilience as a new aspect in power systems operation and electricity markets. As very clearly explained by Dr. Kambouris before, secure operation of power systems is essential, as well as well-functioning electricity market. Those are prerequisites to enable secure supply of electricity to the customers. And this is why power systems exist. We need to supply the electricity to the customers. So even if every condition is met, even or expected to be met, there might be some external factors that influence or disrupt the electricity supply. These external factors may be natural or man-made. As we all know, the occurrence of extreme weather conditions, for example, is growing, and the effects that these events could have due to the structure of the power systems, that they are interconnected, or the coupled electricity markets could be easily transferred, and the consequences could have impact on whole regions. So, for example, as I mentioned, extreme weather conditions and natural disasters can affect both the supply chains, and when I mean supply chains, I mean supply chains of goods and services, but they can also disrupt the electricity supply. And also another process that is ongoing is the very fast digitalization of services. Markets today are operating under multi-actor environment, so they form an increased area for attacks, and also tampering of data and information which are essential for market operation could be another issue, and this could disrupt the market. The electricity supply, of course, can be disrupted by cyber attacks, both into control systems and information systems, as well as vendor networks. So, and we all know physical attack is one typical attack, terrorism or war or other means of physically damaging the systems. So there is a huge need to take into account the resilience of systems and markets, how they can prevent events, how they can cope with them, and how they can survive and mitigate the effects. And another open question that is really not answered yet is how we can value the resilience of systems, and how far we can invest and how much we should invest to get the resilience. I mean, what is reasonable and what is logical. So we need to look into several aspects: legislative aspect, meaning implementation of legislative framework. There is a lot of going on in this segment in the EU. But also implementation of the requirements from Clean Energy Package, the risk preparedness regulation, and the adoption, which is expected in this year, of the network code on cybersecurity. And also establishing competent authorities that could help the critical entities. And when I say critical entities, I mean the TSOs, DSOs, nominated electricity market operators, producers, suppliers, participants in the market, providing aggregation, storage, demand response, and so on. So they should implement various tools and strategies to respond to threats. And as I mentioned in the beginning, in this project that I would like to share some info, we are working on development of four products. The different technology partners are are working on 4 different products. 2 of them address, let's say, the preparedness. So the C3PO will deal with assessment framework, risk assessment framework for power systems. And there is another one, EMA, which is dealing with enhanced maintenance and asset management. And on the other hand, we have tools that are needed in the operation, like PRECOG, which aims to prevent systems for energy issues on energy security. And the other one is the resilience suite for cooperation between TSOs and DSOs. These are only in the preliminary phases of development, but as I said, secure systems are prerequisite for secure supply. They're prerequisite for efficient market operation, and we need to address the issues of resilience very seriously. As I said, these tools are under development, and I hope in next years we'll be able to share some more information about them. So I was brief, I hope, and this is all I wanted to share with you today. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Alexandra, and also thank you for outlining the tools to increase the resilience and of the energy market, and also bringing up the issue of cybersecurity too, which is very important. My last speaker is online. I don't know if Antonis Contoleone. Okay, Antonis.
Yes, I can hear you.
The Secretary of BOD, Hellenic Union of Industrial Consumers of Energy, Unison. Now we're turning back to Greece. I know Antonios is going to discuss about the Greek electricity market and still some of the, of its characteristics.
Okay, thank you very much for the invitation. Can I share my presentation? Can you hear me well?
Yeah. But,
okay.
Yeah, we can hear you a little dim, but can you keep it to 5 minutes, please?
Yes, of course.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let me share my presentation. Hope it's okay. It's not working full. You see full screen, okay? You can see my presentation?
Yeah. Now we can, yeah.
Okay. So for sorry? Yes, Unison is the association of the Greek energy-intensive industries in Greece. So I'm going fast. We have a lot of structural distortions in the electricity market, in the Greek electricity market. The energy crisis magnified the structural deficiencies of the design and the operation of the market. One characteristic of the Greek market is 100% of the energy passes through the dam. We don't have any OTC market. So there is an urgent need to take immediate structural measures on the market and to remove the existing barriers in order to the energy-intensive industries to sign corporate PPAs. The market revenue obtained is implemented in Greece as of July 2022. Unfortunately, in the Greek wholesale market, all bilateral agreements are settled at the energy exchange and cleared at the dam price, which of course does not reflect either the agreed price or the generation realized market revenue. As a result, the market revenue cap is actually targeting virtual market revenues, leading to a significant distortion. Let's go to the next. Oops. So we have to see. Yes. So we have to see the difference between physical delivery versus financial. So an amendment to the market revenue cap has been recently implemented, late March, in order to address this distortion and allow the conclusion of PPAs with energy-intensive industries. As of March 2023, the market revenue cap is not applicable on energy quantities under the requirement that these quantities serve the execution of PPAs with physical settlement concluded with energy-intensive industries. Financial PPAs are outside the scope of the aforementioned amendment. Let's stick more to financial PPAs. Greece has not implemented support measures for energy-intensive industries as in other countries, as set out in the temporary crisis framework. So for us, the only opportunity is, in order to hedge our cost, electricity cost, is to have and sign and conclude financial PPAs against electricity price volatility and reduce our long-term price exposure. Existing barriers in the national regulatory framework have to be removed so as to enable and incentivize the conclusion of financial PPAs, not only PPAs with physical delivery. Also, we welcome the European Commission long-awaited proposal for a reform in the EU electricity market and fully support the key provisions aiming to provide a level playing field for demand response and unlock the full potential of demand-side flexibility. Okay, I think I was fast enough. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Antonis, and thanks for being brief. So we have a little bit of time. I mean, I know even though we started a little late, but still running a little bit of late. But I want to have a short discussion a little bit, and also give the opportunity for questions from the audience. But I'll take the first question because Entella mentioned the role of demand participation in the power market, I was wondering for the other countries, for example, for North Macedonia, for Greece, I mean, what would be the role of demand participation in the power market? Yeah, please. Yeah, of course.
Thank you. So we don't have a typical demand response program, but some tariff blocks were introduced. So people were motivated, especially households, to reduce their consumption, to use electricity more, or to shift some of their consumption in the evening hours after 10 o'clock in the evening, and also to be more aware of how much monthly electricity they would use. It is a first step. It is not a regular demand management program, but still it is a step forward. I would prefer that we have a more dynamic approach into this question, or split more tariffs throughout the day, so we can motivate shifting the consumption into different hours of the day. It is peculiar. Now the Regulatory Commission is considering to allow a low tariff in the high from 2 or 1 o'clock in the afternoon to 3 or 4. I'm not sure how it is going to be, due to the high penetration of photovoltaics. So it is another approach that they're thinking to take. I'm not sure if it's going to happen, but it is something that is going on now. So I hope I gave you some insights on that.
Great. For Greece, is there anybody from the panel who would want to comment?
Yeah, say for Greece, there are actually twofold. One is the prices that the providers offer. Yeah, maybe some, for example, one company offers low prices during some hours. But actually, we follow the general regulation of the European Union that is included actually in the target model. I think that 2 months ago, maybe less, just it was incorporated in the target model in the manner that any aggregators or big customers can play in the market by offering bids. So it's exactly what is foreseen by the Turkey model. But it's very, very fresh for Greece because it was just implemented just 1-2 months ago. So I cannot give you what was the impact actually. That's it from my side.
Yeah. Effie, you had something to add, I think.
Yes, just to say that we used to have a sort of demand response with the night tariffs for residential customers. It was more of an incentive to shift their consumption. I think that for industries it's much easier to engage in such a scheme because they have a financial incentive and they are much more informed. I'm not so sure that aggregating a lot of residential customers will work for Greece because the benefit will be very low and it will be hard. So this for me.
If you allow me, I can comment on that.
Yeah, please.
Yes, so we don't see that there are a lot of incentives for big industries to participate for demand response. We need to build a separate service. And this is the meaning of the new regulation in Europe. We cannot compete against the generators in participating in the balancing market. So as Yannis said, it's very recently, it is only, let's say, the regulatory framework which give us the opportunity to participate in the dam. But also I would like to mention a lot of distortions. For example, signing a PPA with physical delivery, we are not allowed to sell back to dam a part of energy that we cannot use. This is a big distortion. Because you understand, they say the response from the energy exchange is that as our nomination is done day -2, it is not sure that our exchange, our transaction, it will be executed. So there are a lot of barriers that have to be removed in order to be able to sign PPAs, and this is the only way for us now to have cheap energy or at least hedge. Thank you.
Now, from the audience, are there any questions? Okay, then I was going to turn back to the panel and see if there are any questions from the presentations that you heard from the other panelists. I mean, you know, between you, from the presentation that you heard, if there was any questions. Okay, then I will wrap it up. But as a final note, I would like, there's a thing I like to do with my panelists is, let's say, if we did this, then leave a word blank, that would increase the resilience of the power market. So, like in one word, what do you think, you know, would be the key thing to do to increase the resilience of the power market? Intella.
In terms of national or regional?
Yeah.
National?
Yeah, regional.
Regional.
I mean, regional or national. I mean, in your case, you can talk.
Well, I can think of a national one, of course.
Yeah.
It's for Albania is critical diversification of portfolio of generation resources, and to my opinion, gas to power should be priority, apart from renewables, because there are a lot in process.
Okay.
And when it comes to regional, it's market integration.
Alexandra?
Not one word. I would use more, but I would leave the markets alone for a change, and allow investments to flow. So I think it's a good approach.
But at least?
I would say, as a wrap-up from my previous discussion, I would say that let's leave the markets work, and let's leave the markets work without any subsidies, tariffs, whatever comes. And yes, do you hear me now?
Yeah.
Without any subsidies, tariffs, grants, whatever may provide some, let's say, financial support to the investors, because we have to be more liberalized in our attitude towards the market. Of course, as we discussed previously, we need either more interconnections in the Balkan region or more capacity for storage, or both. I fully support the interconnection investments because they provide a way to handle the renewable excess from one country to the neighboring one.
Yeah.
And
sorry.
and of course, if for the, let's say, midterm, if there is no such interconnection capacity enough to handle the excess, then storage capacity is not an option, is mandatory.
Great.
It will be a little more than one word, but I think what we have to do is to create surpluses in energy, in transportation of energy. I mean, to use technology in order to create surpluses in general. I would not stick in the markets. In case we have a sparse resources, a market cannot always operate properly. But I think as a society, you have to invest and to exploit resources in terms of primary resources, renewables is the preference of everybody, of course, but also in transmission and maybe storage, etc. But I think technological development is the key to create resources. Thank you.
So I will go with diversification of sources, and I think that this is one of the lessons. This must be one of the lessons learned from last year. We should not rely only on one supplier, and we should not rely on only one technology.
Great. And a round of applause to my audience. I want to thank you so much, my panel, for the very interesting discussion, and move forward. Thank you.